see here. And we are live. Hey everyone, and welcome to Big Red Homestead. I'm Josh S. Caleb. Today we are live before the
Whew.
spring game, talking about the 10 breakout Huskers that we're looking for in the spring game. The 10 players that are going to change everything for Matt Rule, for Nebraska this season. And there's a lot of new faces on this Husker team, so we're going to be kind of going through them one by one, hanging out with you guys live today. It's not going to be like a crazy long one, but maybe like 30, 40 minutes, ideally, if we can keep it within that range, and go about it that way. So, obviously, first of all, Caleb, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. It's a great day for football just in general. We got the NFL draft this
I know,
evening.
right?
It's getting
T minus
drafty
50
in
minutes.
here.
It
I'm very
is.
excited. I'm excited to watch the draft, see where all those players land. Obviously, tons of Husker players are getting drafted in the first round this evening, so I can't wait.
Yeah, dude.
In a few years, I will say that and mean it, and it'll be very exciting. But no, I can't wait, and I'm excited for the spring game. I mean, we get more football. It just feels like a football-filled week. It's feeling like the fall, even though it's not even summer yet,
I
and
know,
I
right?
just can't wait for football season. Oh man,
Yes, yes. So it's gonna be crazy. So first of all, welcome everybody to the stream. If you're hanging out with us, Fortnite highlights. What's up? How you doing? Welcome in. And we'll get right into it. And kind of near the end, we'll kind of start going through more questions to kind of treat it more like a video up front. And then as people start trickling in, we'll answer questions later on. So off the rip, I mean, what are your thoughts here when it comes to the spring game on Saturday? The first guy you're looking at when it comes to how you want to see him used, how much he's going to see the field, and which guys are you targeting here as breakouts as new additions to Nebraska?
I definitely didn't see this starting, spring camp, but it's Bly Hill has to be the number one guy
Dude,
at this point. It felt like the defense was pretty solidified. We know who we were going to get, and then Bly Hill's name comes out of Matt Rule's mouth, and he's essentially a starter. And so that changes everything. And again, we've seen it from last year, again in spring camp. Their word was very true. Like there wasn't just
yeah,
coach speak.
exactly.
They mentioned guys that they believed in and saw from this point. So, I mean, it looks like we're going to get a new cornerback. It's going to be Hill squared back there and Tommy Hill and Bly Hill, which
I
is
mean, that was
crazy
literally
that
the
we're seeing.
quote from Rule. He was asked like, "So how are you seeing the cornerback position play out? Like, if there was a game today, who do you think would be out there?" And he said, "It's got to be Hill and Hill." But he's like, "I gotta have to ask Coop first." But he's like, "I think it's Hill and Hill." And so, I mean, the crazy thing about like Bly Hill is he's a 1 year player from St. Francis. I mean, obviously, you're a big fan of St. Francis, right? Huge fan. So, I
Yes.
mean, that's in itself interesting. A puny school and a 1 year player. So he has 3 years of eligibility left at Nebraska. And
Yeah.
so that's what I think is the most interesting is if he is the real deal and we see that in the spring game on Saturday, suddenly you're looking at like a potential stud here throughout the rest of his career at Nebraska. I mean, last year he played in, I think it was around 9 or 10 games at St. Francis. Their biggest competition they played against was Western Michigan week 1 and Delaware week 3. And in that game, he had a 66.8 rating against Western Michigan, and then he had a 52 rating against Delaware. But the rest of the year, against like Duke Knees, Wagner, and a few other schools, he had some huge games and apparently was pretty dominant.
He was playing
So,
Duquesne out there.
no,
The sweetheart.
Duke Knees,
Oh.
not Duquesne. Yeah,
Oh, not
Wagner,
Duquesne.
Duke Knees, so like those types of schools. So it's hard to know. I mean, we talked about him briefly in the transfer video, and there wasn't much film on him, obviously, just the Western Michigan game, so there wasn't much to see. And
Oh, we
so,
had heard good things, but we thought because he was only 165 pounds, we figured he'd be a project guy that could end up being good maybe the next year. But
right.
I mean, for him to make an instant impact, I mean, he had the frame for it. But yeah, I think both of us were just kind of when we saw just the numbers of him, and again coming from the FCS, we're like, he does have a live reps, so clearly they saw good stuff on film. But just with him being only 165 pounds, we thought that he probably needed to grow a little bit more. That's why we kind of assumed that he was a JUCO guy. But for him, again, just to earn the spot already, I mean, we haven't even gotten through fall camp, and obviously we had like Malcolm Hartzog, who he's been a proven guy who's played a lot for us since his freshman
Yes,
year,
that's the big
and
question,
so
right? What the
yeah,
heck
so
is going to happen with Malcolm?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting. He's kind of a guy that's had to play both spots because we've had some attrition just in the secondary in the past. But I definitely think he's a better corner than a safety from what
Yeah.
we've seen. But
But
it's
he
just
did move
wild
into
that
safety a decent amount last year, though,
yeah.
with all the injuries when Omar Brown was out, when Singleton was out, when Buford was out.
Oh
So
yeah.
we have seen him back there at least a little bit. The question is like, is he more comfortable there? Rule had mentioned in previous pressers that like he is a guy that can play all over the field. So what does your gut tell you? What do you think we're going to see in the spring game? More likely to be safety? More likely to be at corner? I don't know. What are your thoughts? Welcome in, Brett. By the way,
Uh,
how you doing?
my
Pre-draft,
guess is
100%.
that my guess is he's just a tweener guy that Hartzog will fit in both places where he can do reps at both. And I guess if the coaches see him as that, I mean, I do think that he'll still have plenty of playing time on the field, but it's surprising that again Hill's going to be in most sets at
What
this
does your
point.
gut say? Do you think it's going to be more at corner or more at safety in the spring game?
Corner, I
In
would
the
think
spring game.
corner.
Okay.
I think at corner.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I am interested to see though. I'm not convinced. It could be at safety. I wonder, but we're still young, and we're pretty young back there with like Buford. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It could be both. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm with you. Bly Hill. I mean, it's exciting, and I cannot wait to see how much he's out there and how good he could potentially look in this game. I mean, Rule talked about it. He said 2 weeks ago the defense absolutely dominated, and then last week the offense had the best week or the best scrimmage that or best practice that the offense had ever had at his time at Nebraska. And he said it wasn't even close. Although he did say in that practice, plenty of the defensive starters were sitting, like Ty and Nash and Giff and Tommy Hill, and a bunch of guys were sitting. So that probably had something to do with it. But
It does help
nonetheless,
usually.
yeah, good to see. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exciting. I think it more as Dylan gets comfortable with his guys. And I think there is still a lot of interesting wide receivers. I also wonder if Fly Hill must be fast because a lot of our guys are burners. So I think that probably the speed probably helps him too inside because I think Hartzog just wasn't quite as fast. Like when I
And
was
Hartzog
thinking
was
back to
short and
some of those,
undersized. So Bly
yeah.
Hill's
So
6'3". If he puts on a little bit of pounds, I mean, then he's pretty dangerous at corner, size-wise.
yeah, so as we, like, switch over to the offensive side, I think there's plenty of guys to be exciting for, and, 6 guys, multiple guys that we're really thinking about. I think Corey Barney was one guy that really
Dude.
I think both you and me are looking for in the sprint game because he jumped off the tape when watching his huddle highlights that we were watching there on Patreon. We've been going through a series of all of our newest incoming freshmen, watching all of their sizzle reels, and, Corey Barney was one guy that I think both you and me said, "Wow, like, his tape was comparable to like a Wandale Robinson because he played multiple positions. Looks like a
That was
running
the first
back.
name
He
that came
looked
to
like a wide
mind. I mean, that's
receiver.
why I
Yeah.
said in the video, I was like, holy crap, this guy's like Wandale.
I mean, he looked good. I mean, you get excited for jet sweeps or even trick plays where you just handing the ball off in the
Yeah,
backfield. And I think he had really nice hands too. And again, that speed that Matt Rule just keeps wanting and promoting. And I think we just keep getting at wide receiver. I think again, the one thing that you can describe all of our wide receivers here, you know, now there is some size, but we really do have just a ton of speed on that
100%.
roster. And again, just another guy that can come in, another track star that can absolutely burn inside of the hashes. So I'm pretty excited to see what he's made of in the spring game.
Yeah,
And
I
I
agree. I
think
mean, he's kind of like the perfect spring game candidate. True freshman.
yes,
You're going to get to see him a lot in that second half of the game, probably after the ones are off the field. And so overall, it should be interesting. I mean, Rule did say though that all 3 quarterbacks are going to have reps with all 3 ones, twos, and threes. So
nice.
they're embracing the QB competition. It's going to be probably annoying at times seeing these guys with the random groups of offensive personnel, but it should give us a pretty good read on which quarterbacks out there and which receivers have which receivers have good connections with which quarterbacks. And so, if you see where we're like Ja'Cory Barney's out there, 6 or 7 targets from like Raiola, and you're like, okay,
Oh,
suddenly
yeah.
that's what gets you interested, is that suddenly you're going to get a chance to see Raiola with the 2s and 3s, not just the 1s. So I think that actually makes it interesting when it comes to identifying potential breakouts with the other positions. So I'm looking forward to that. Welcome in everybody, by the way, for just joining us. Jacob, William, Huntok, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Yeah,
Great to
exactly.
see
The
you
hype
all.
was real with all the quarterbacks. They were saying Harburg and Dillon were having like 99-yard drives. Yep. So That's gonna be interesting. We'll talk about receivers in a second as well. So with some of the other guys. So yeah, I mean, with I'm with you, Bly Hill, Ja'Cory Barney, first two, and I mean the next guy here is at offensive line. We're not sure how much we're gonna see him. He was apparently a little bit banged up, so we're not sure if he's going to play or not. But if he does play, Micah Maskua coming in as a transfer. I mean, you got to be excited about him.
Yeah, from Florida, played in 11 of 12 games, and a lot like Piper last year, again, at right guard, a guy that we lost to injury last year, who was really good on the run side of PFF. And again, that's something that we've really been lacking in our offensive line over these last few years.
He was pretty balanced.
Um, and yeah, he was. He was good in a lot of ways, and again, had lots of reps. And I'm excited that we get another guy that we can just. I mean, our offensive line. Everybody knows it's been the weak link of the chain. I mean, last year it was quarterbacks because we couldn't pass the ball, but then the next weakest position was the offensive line group. So again, to have some more life
What?
breathed into our offensive line is something that's very valuable. And again, starting and playing time which
Yeah, well,
again
that's
is
the
just
thing,
so
and that's what's
important on those
what's
transfers.
clutch is like he's not a guy that you have to take a chance on. I mean, he played even in 2021, he played over 100 snaps at Baylor, then played 759 snaps at Baylor in 2022, and then transferred to Florida, 730 snaps in 2023 at Florida. So he's got 2 years of over 700 snaps, and on PFF,
Needed.
74 grade in 2022, 71 grade in 2023, and a really well balanced grades on both pass blocking and run blocking. So I mean, that's where you immediately get excited. Where, I mean, he's like the perfect fit for us, and his brother's here as well as a walk on. So,
Needed.
I mean, I think everything about Micah is exciting, and you hope to see a pretty good performance here from the offensive line in the spring game if he ends up going, which we don't have word, I think, yet on whether or not he's actually going to play. So we'll see. But that is
That's a
obviously a
great
guy to
point
keep.
too. With Ty and Nash not playing in the spring game, we want to see the offensive line dominate. I think it'll be hard because we have so many good pass rush guys, which probably leads into like Willis McGahee the fourth. But again, we want to see this offensive line win and this experience win because we have our two of the top, those defensive linemen for us last year aren't going to play, so we need to see them winning the line of scrimmage. And I think that's great too because we want to see our quarterbacks have time in the pocket and see which one is the best. I mean, spoiler alert, it's going to be Dylan Raiola, but
Whoa,
I'm
man.
excited. But at least giving him some time to at least show us that we don't just want to be on the paper. We want to see it with our eyes. I think that's what we're also
I
excited
mean,
about this
multiple
weekend. Is
coaches have said that Harburg has taken significant strides in the passing game, which, maybe that's to new
due to the
coaching.
wide receivers.
Well, I mean, I just think like maybe that's credit to the new coaching, and that could be it could be real. So, I mean, from that
Yeah,
perspective, I am interested to see how good he looks. But we know that his arm at times can look good. The question is the consistency, and we saw that last year in games. So for me, it's like if even if we
least
saw
consistent.
Harburg have a lot of have a breakout spring game or a great spring game, I'd probably have a grain of salt on it just because we've had such a big sample size with him in the season. It's more likely that
What
guys
the
are going to revert back to their norm in game situations when they play.
Yes. I mean, and the great news is, I mean, if he is, I mean, again, we know he's a big competitor, he's not going to quit, and we appreciate what he brings to the table in the quarterback room. So him only improving only makes, you know, Raiola and Kalen even better. So I'm excited for that. But man, like it's hard to believe the Harburg is progressing in the passing game. I think part of it, again, I think that Banks is super exciting and um, you know, Ayer is super exciting, and those kind of that could be why. And then our other wide receivers have kind of taken a step because Malachi and like and those guys just weren't enough last year. So
Sure.
maybe that's it. Maybe that's a little bit more. I mean, when
I mean, it's
Fedoni
probably a
was the
combination of
best
both,
option.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So, I mean, either way, it's going to be interesting. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we all hope that Raiola lives up to the hype because that's by far the highest outcome scenario for us, is if he's
he's
just
the
the real
highest
deal
upside.
from the beginning, right? So,
Yeah,
that's the thing. So, when it comes to upside, I mean, at the running back position, we didn't talk about this in our last video, so we didn't mention the running backs. Of course, Dante Dowdle is coming in from Oregon as a transfer. And so he was one of the hyped up guys this offseason. Pretty obvious, but he's a big question mark. I mean, he barely had any snaps at Oregon. I think like under 20. I'd have to go pull up
yeah.
the
We
charts.
watched all of them,
Yeah.
and it was not a lot. I mean, he had like a couple like 10-yard runs, and I think that was kind of the extent of it. I mean, he's an exciting guy, someone that we recruited. He, obviously has a
28.
lot of talent. 28,
Yeah.
nice. So he's a guy that we've recruited, and he has, a lot of upside as a 4-star. I think the running back room in general is really interesting. I think that because of injuries, because of him transferring in, there's plenty of room, and the new freshman. It's like there's plenty of room for competition. I think it's way more exciting than the quarterback one personally, because I think there's a lot more room of. I mean, I think it's anybody's game a little bit more in
Yeah.
comparison in the
I
running
mean,
back room. I
Dowdle's
still think it'd be
size,
probably
he's
like
listed at 6'2", 215, and he shows up,
yeah, that's
and
huge.
speed shows up on the film. So that's where you get excited about the potential, because the
Derrick
body's
Henry?
there. Yeah, the body's there, right? Exactly. But the talk from the coaches so far has been they've been disappointed with the fundamentals from the running backs, that they haven't, the pass blocking hasn't been there. They said they've improved a little bit when it comes to taking care of the ball, but like
Thank the Lord. Oh my
Satterfield
goodness.
said, like, it's been a little bit underwhelming, and I think that was also talked about by Barthel as well. Mentioned that, I think.
Do you think that's
Um,
chicken or the egg? Do you think that's offensive line, or do you think that the running backs are mid?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah. So Rules, when asked about the running backs, Rule like oozed about Emmett Johnson, and then he was like, everyone else they're developing. And it was
That's
like,
great because
okay,
again, we chose Emmett Johnson that we thought would probably be the starter when we had I don't know a couple videos ago. So
yeah.
I think Emmett's the clear favorite. He looks so good at
Well, because he
times.
said
He
Amon
did,
Green
he
was
did the
there at
Christian
practice, and
McCaffrey.
Amon Green was impressed with Emmett.
Nice.
And then he didn't mention anyone else. But he said
Amon
everyone
Green,
else, he said,
esports legend.
the quote I have down here is he said everyone else is a bit behind, especially in pass pro. So that was kind of what was like talked about.
Emmett was good in that right, on the tape when it
It's
was,
decent,
so
yeah.
that doesn't surprise me.
So,
Yeah, that's
and then
exciting.
I think it was Barthel also said that Emmett's taken some big steps and just feels like he's such a well-rounded back. So it feels like Emmett right now is the lead. Yeah, he highlighted Emmett's ability to make guys miss at the second level. And interestingly enough, when Satterfield was asked about running backs, he said, "What do you want to see from the running backs in the spring?" He says, "Make guys miss at the second level." And then Barthel in a press conference like a day before had said that Emmett is really making guys miss at the second level. So I was like, that's an interesting little correlation there. From
That's
the
crazy.
again, the coach talk, it matters with these guys. They do seem to
Yeah,
they do seem to shoot straight with us, at least in the pressers. So it is interesting
yeah.
to say the least. So I don't know. What is your expectation for Dowdle? What would you want to see in a game like this?
I don't know. I mean, just some flash, some sizzle, some excitement. I think with his size, breaking some tackles, that speed, like you
The
said
physical
before.
running, right? Like the next,
Yeah.
you want to make
Yeah.
him. He should look better
Yards
than
after
Anthony Grant.
contact. Yes, he should look better than Anthony Grant. Against some better lines, again, being able to get upfield, let's get vertical, not horizontal. I think things that we've seen with some of our other running backs that have given us question marks or led to them not being able to start. Obviously, no fumbles. I'm so sick and tired of our running backs absolutely coughing up the ball at the worst times. Anthony Grant last year, or just every time, my goodness, in games that mattered.
Yeah,
So it's just so important. And I mean, it is exciting that Emmett Johnson is the guy, man. I'd love to see him stay healthy. He looked so good last year.
I mean
When
he's so smooth. The agility is
yes,
insane. His one step cuts
yes.
are beautiful. So, and he's really decisive as a runner as well, and seems to have like respectable enough burst and breakaway speed. So he's just a really solid like B plus A type of running back. I don't know if like the A plus upside is there, but maybe it just hasn't. Maybe you got to work away at it a little bit, and maybe the body's got to catch up, because if you give him another year to develop, then maybe he can improve that top end speed, because I just feel like that was a little bit what was lacking with him. But overall, still excited. So
Yes.
I'm hoping maybe we can see some of that in the spring game, and that'd be exciting. Okay, so when it comes to the next guy that you think, when it comes to new players on this roster, I mean, we talked about the linebackers in our last video a little bit. Vince Savers, true freshman. Willis
Mhm.
McGahee, the fourth, true freshman. And then you could even, last year, of course, Chief Borders joined, but he's been getting some hype. Rule said that
Yeah.
Borders is the most improved player. We're not exactly sure if he's a linebacker or a D end now. On the roster, he's now officially listed as a defensive end, which maybe that just means he's going to play exclusively at Jack as a pass rusher. But
Yeah.
I am interested to see where he'll line up in the spring game for sure, and kind of see where the hype's at with that. But obviously, maybe
Yeah,
talk a little
hearing
bit about
him
Vince Shaver, McGahee, and Chief Borders.
Yeah, first of all, hearing Chief Borders is a guy. I mean, last year everybody was really excited. There was a lot of hype coming in with Chief Borders, as a transfer, and then really didn't see the field whatsoever. So hearing that he's much improved is exciting. Again, we can kind of believe what the coaches are saying here. And
Hmm.
Josh and I were both worried about the linebacker position just in general because we felt like it was one of the weakest positions, not weakest, but just thinnest
Lacking
positions at
lacking
depth.
upside
Yeah,
and depth,
yeah.
especially.
Depth especially. So hearing that Chief Borders is now making a lot of progress is very nice. At defensive end is really interesting. I feel like now that there's a lot of guys that are potential pass rushers for us, which is really exciting. I feel like we're going to be able to get to the quarterback and do a lot of different packages. I think we're going to, open up the bag a little bit and be able to do a
I mean,
lot more
Rule
in that
has
sense
hammered home the point of
in the QB.
the need to rush with 4 and get pressure with 4. Because I mean, think about last year. We couldn't. We literally could not
He
get
could
pressure
not.
with 4. And if we did, we
Had
weren't
to be
sacking the
5.
quarterback. It was just moving him. It was getting him a
Unless we
little
were, it was
uncomfortable.
a safety blitz.
Well, yeah,
And we were
exactly. And that's the thing,
getting
like,
them off guard.
because our D
It was a quarter
linemen, it's
blitz,
like,
safety blitz.
unfortunately, Nash and Ty, like, how many times last year did we see them disrupt one of the quarterbacks, but then JJ McCarthy just moves a little bit, laces it down the field,
Yeah.
touchdown. Like, the amount of times last year Shador Sanders, every play, we couldn't get him down.
Yes.
Talia, same thing. We just couldn't get him
Yep.
down, and that was the problem. So this year we need to get our hands on him and actually get him to the ground, and that's where you hope to see like Prince will take that next step, or maybe a true freshman come in and make the difference. Side note,
Yeah, we don't
in the video, people thought we were hating on John Bullock. We don't hate John Bullock. It's just that
No, no,
we
no.
just don't. He's the upside's questionable, and the passing game, especially in zone defense, is the worry with John Bullock.
Yeah,
So
again, yeah,
that's what we were really
it was
trying to
the
hammer home
zone
in that
pass
video.
coverage, it wasn't great. Yeah, he is a good pass rusher, we think, and he's a good run stopper, but he's just not good in the pass protection. He's not an all-around guy. He's, he's best in some spots. He's best in those, 3rd and longs when he's rushing. He's not best in,
Right. I mean,
1st and
first and
10, he's
second
gotta
down, he
drop in
can
coverage.
definitely be out there. But if you need him to line
Yeah,
up on a slot guy in zone, or play zone and try to cover the flats, it's not where he wants to be. So
not his position to
teams
shine.
exposed it last year. So that was the thing. I think that was kind of the bigger issue with us in that video. And people were taking it out of context, man. We don't hate John Bullock around here.
Not at all.
And he made big improvements in the second half in
Oh, so
points
much.
last year. So, okay, so yeah, I'm with you there.
Vince
Obviously, we talked a lot.
Vince Shavers is the excitement. Yeah, we talked about him last
A
video,
lot
but
about
man,
Shavers, and we even mentioned McGahee as well. We've broken them down extensively on the Patreon and their film, but both of them have incredible burst and speed. And Shavers is the guy where you could see him getting to the edge, see him playing the flats, see him rushing the passer. He's super fast and he gets all over the field, and that's the hype. So I think everyone's got Shavers circled for the spring game as the guy that could break out as a true freshman and
yes.
be that Ernest Hausman type of breakout, where Ernest Hausman wasn't, I don't think, showed the upside that Shavers potentially could be showing already. So that's what I'm
Or
excited
even
to
Prince
see.
Will. Even from Prince
Well,
Will from
Prince
last year
Will,
too.
the hype was already shown in the spring game. Like with
True.
Ernest, it wasn't like he
It
showed
was
some
it grew on
potential,
us to see, yeah.
but he never showed, I don't think, the potential for the upside that I think Shavers could potentially show here. Not a clear description of that, but overall, I think Shavers has the chance to show more upside, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I agree.
at the wide receiver position, there's a bunch of guys that are
Ooh.
new that we can
Yes.
talk about. Obviously, Isaiah Nair, Jamal Banks. We talked about them a lot in the last video, and the coaches and everyone
Can't
talked about
wait
them
to see
extensively.
Banks.
So they're kind of a little bit.
Can't wait to see Banks.
The thing is, Banks is locked
Feed me Banks
to be
highlights.
great. He's locked.
Yeah,
to be
he's our
good.
he's
We already know
automatically our
that.
number one target. Yes.
So like, we don't even need to talk about Banks. He probably won't even play that much in this game, to be honest. If I had to assume, like, he's just locked and loaded wide receiver 1. Keep him healthy. And shout out everybody who's just joining us, by the way. And we'll do some Q&A here at the end of the stream in a little bit here.
Yeah.
But it's been a blast so far. But yeah, like Banks to me is a lock. Nair is the more interesting question. What do you hope to see from Nair in this game, Banks, and this receiving core as a whole, Jaden Dawson, some of these other young guys that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nair, again, he has so much upside because what we had seen from him in years past, there's just so much question marks with him getting hurt, not really playing at all in Texas. There's just so many question marks that surround him. But if he
I
can
mean,
be
the
a guy
NFL
that,
drafts
again,
tonight in like 3 of his teammates could get drafted in the next 2 days. 2 of them could get drafted tonight.
Exactly.
Xavier
I mean,
Worthy
there's
and
gonna be
Adonai Mitchell.
so many
So,
wide receivers. Yeah. Adonai first, probably, right? Yes.
it's they're pretty close right now.
Depends on the big board. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the big board. Yeah, no, I think it's crazy. I mean, he had tough competition at Texas. And so that's why he barely saw the field. But man, when he went to Texas before he got injured, like he was going to be their number one guy. Like, so there is so much potential with him if he got healthy, if he somehow is fully healed, if he's as fast as he was, because his catching was insane. His catch radius and then that speed we saw again, he was just so much better than any Mountain West player when you go back and watch those Wyoming highlights.
Yeah.
He looks like that in this spring game. Watch out, put the whole Big
Agreed.
Ten on alert. And then like if Nair is that good and then Banks as well, I mean, we are a filthy team. And then
and with
it's like
so
as
much depth too.
yeah, and then it's like Lloyd and Malachi can continue to improve. We have guys like Jaden Doss, but if we have these dudes that have come in and absolutely just changed the landscape of our wide receiver core, which was not great last year. We had solid freshmen who are super one-dimensional in that they were super fast, go downfield as fast as
Yeah.
you can, and sometimes this will work. But like
But
again, we were hoping that they've
man,
really
the thing
improved.
about
But if
receivers
Nair,
though is that normally in Big Ten play, especially, is that first years are where you show the flash, and then sophomore year is when you dominate.
oh
Think about
yeah,
like Rondale Moore, someone like that, where freshman year he looked really good, but then sophomore year dominated. And I
and
would
yeah,
even
that's
say
why
same
with
with
like Lloyd
Wandale
and
too.
Malachi, it's insane. With Lloyd and Malachi, it's like, oh my goodness, they have so much star potential for this next year. You think of like what Lloyd did of some of those again huge touchdowns that changed the makeup of the game, and the same with Malachi. And it's like
Yeah,
now we're gonna have either we're gonna have a more accurate quarterback who is better at throwing the deep
where
ball
I think at this
and
point, then
more
you
space. Like you're not gonna be facing the number one cornerback on Ohio State this year because there's other problems. And
exactly
they had to go against 3 4 year starters. I mean, you look at Iowa, like they're going against first round draft picks. Like, I mean, I guess Cooper DeJean got hurt, but still,
yeah,
like again, in other teams too, just phenomenal. I mean, if you're cornerback one at any Big Ten team, you're a draft pick, and so to go
right.
against that when you're 18 years old is a tough ask. And so again, another year. I mean, you just look at the whole wide receiver unit. You have to feel really excited about what this can bring.
Is there anything? I mean, like from the guys that we didn't see last year that were basically unknowns, like Jaden Doss, someone like that. Is there anything that you would hope to see as development wise?
Yeah, I mean, I
Any
think I
of the
was
other
excited
young
about him.
guys like Keelan Smith?
I mean, I think definitely Doss. We had heard stuff from the coaching staff and heard them talking about him. So I think I'm excited to see him in the spring game. I think it's stout competition, but I think that there's still a role. And again, we saw how far down the wide receiver list that we got. I guess IGC. What does he have? I mean, in the tank left. I mean, he's at least interesting as well in the wide
Yeah, I mean,
receiver
people will
core.
mention him a lot. He's but we're not going to see him
Yeah.
in the spring, so that's the thing.
That's what's tough. So, I mean, it's really interesting. Our wide receiver core, it feels like there's a lot of dudes that can make noise, but man, I think I'm most excited about Nair just because there's so many question marks and so much potential if he is healthy.
The other 2 freshmen that you need to at least know the name of in case they end up seeing a lot of the field in the spring game would be Keelan Smith, a 3-star. He was like the top recruit in Missouri, 6'2", 205, and he's the son
Yeah,
of a former Husker, number 2 overall pick in the 1988 draft. So that's Neil Smith. So the
yeah,
genetics are there. The question is is he polished enough as a prospect to impact right away? He didn't flash as much on the tape as Ja'Cory Barney did, but
yeah,
he at least showed some potential. And in 14 games last season in high school, he had 74 catches, 1,268 yards, and 17 touchdowns. So he produced at the high school level. And then Devon Hall as well from Bellevue West. He was injured during his senior year in high school, but he is early enrolled and he should be playing in this spring game.
yeah.
I'm honestly not sure. So if he's out there, that's a guy to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you feel like and there's so much talent rolling in. That it's
I
gonna be
know, and
fun.
those are
Again,
just the
there's gonna be
early
so many
enrollees.
quarterbacks.
There's other guys that aren't early enrollees. So like, there's just so much potential in this receiving room. It's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's impressive how
those,
well the coaching staff has done to give this wide receiving room so much juice out in like 2 seasons. So you
Yeah,
gotta
especially
shout
after
out
it
that.
felt the absolute opposite last year. It felt
Right.
like there was I mean, again, we were excited about Malachi and Lloyd, but I mean, not, year 1. I mean, once it's crazy how the injuries, how it just shaped
Yeah.
everything and changed the whole outlook of the season. But man, I'm just excited for the spring game, and there's
Do you
so
have
many
any
different
hot
guys
takes
that
for the
we've
spring
named.
game? I mean, now, we're T-minus a day and a half away. Any hot takes?
I already made the crazy, Dylan Raiola take, um, which I think is crazy. I mean, I don't know. I think that by the end of the season, I really think that Shavers is going to be the starter. Is going to be a starting
Wow.
linebacker. Is that
That's
a
a
hot?
that's a
I
season's
think
prediction. You haven't even
yeah,
seen
that's a
him play a
season
snap.
prediction. I know, crazy. Just the rumblings and whisperings from the
How
coaches.
about
I
how
mean,
about you
they must
start
be
with
seeing
how about you
something.
start with Vince Shavers will be the talk of the town after the spring game. That's a decent enough
Fair,
prediction,
fine,
right?
that's fair. Yeah, Shavers is going to be a talk of the town. He's going to look. Everybody's going to be like, "Oh wow!" Like last year. Like,
Yeah.
man, he looks super good. Man, who's that Cam Lenhart guy?
I mean,
What
that's the thing.
is
Like
he really
last
that
year,
good?
we walked away from the spring game, and the two
Cam
highlights were
and
Cam
Prince
Lenhart and
Will.
Prince Will. They were like, holy crap, and they
Like,
continue to be
are
the
our
talk of the
linemen
town.
bad or are they good?
And that's what we talked
That
about.
was
Literally,
our
that was
debate.
the
That was our
first
debate.
talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And both were true. Both were true.
Both things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
That's what we
Yeah.
learned.
So, man, I mean, it's hard to know what the spring game will unfold. I think if I had to predict if I had to give the narrative for the spring game, the takeaway will be Dylan Raiola is really freaking good.
Oh,
The takeaway will
I
be is
can't wait.
that
Just shower me with
Emmett
those
Johnson's the
articles.
lead back, with Gabe Ervin being the X factor when he's back.
Yep.
I think the hype will be a little bit. I think we're a little bit too hyped about Dante Dowdle. If I had to guess, Quentin Ives is
I think that's
interesting.
how we both walked in. Yeah.
I think Ives has a
Ives
lot of
is
potential because
interesting.
he was coming from wide receiver, changing to running back. So he has a lot of size. He's big.
He can be a
So
gadget guy.
he could
Again,
be a
that can
gadget
kind of
guy with a
fill in those
lot of
pass catching
size as a
downs.
pass catcher. So he's interesting.
I agree. His tape looked good
So I
too.
want to see how we use him in the spring game. And then I think the other takeaway will what does your gut say? Is Nair the real deal? Because again, the explanation for why
It's hard.
he
It's
didn't
hard
play.
to
He played
say.
one snap at Texas, and he was healthy that entire season. So the question is, well,
Yeah.
is it because there was 3 NFL guys in front of him? But like obviously you'd want to see him at least
That's
get a
pretty.
little bit more time than one snap.
Yeah. I mean, it does make you nervous. I mean, it's hard for me to say he's the guy. It really is. Again, when I think Malachi hurt. I still think he's going to give him a run. And I think that Lloyd and we know Banks, like you said, Banks is for sure the locked dude. I hope he can be serviceable for us and be really good. I mean, but it's hard. Like I just see it. I'm gonna have to see him be impressive for me to believe it. Just
Yeah.
because,
That's what
again,
we
yeah, he
talked about in the
didn't play a
video. That's
single
why I
snap at
said,
Texas. I know Texas, like blah blah blah. I made the Final Four and yada
oh, what
yada.
are you
But
about to
like
say here?
but still, I mean, it's just hard to know. Like, and all the first round draft picks.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
the injury, like,
I mean, the receiving
yeah,
core
it's
seems like
crazy
the
they only
real
played
deal,
one
though. I
snap.
mean, Xavier
Oh,
Worthy
they were
seems like the
legit.
real deal, and Adonai Mitchell is probably the real deal as well. I'm higher on Worthy. Um,
Yeah.
so if there's 3 guys there, and then what's his face, the third one, I'm forgetting his name right now. But
Me too.
he's projected right now to be a middle round pick. So legitimately 3 NFL
Hard.
draft picks, 2 first rounders. So there's a reason why he was on the field, but man, I don't know. Still gets me to worry. Still gets me a little bit worried. Okay, let's go to the chat for some questions. Waropedia asked about the safeties and kind of we talked about this a little bit earlier in the stream war, with Hartzog. And he says, who do you all see at the other safety position? Will Hartzog play there, and like who else will be there? But I think both of us assume, at least by the start of the season, it'll be Singleton, Buford, and
Buford,
Giff
yeah.
as the 3 safeties, counting Rover.
Yep.
With Giff playing Rover. I think that's the base thought. And then
Yeah,
Hartzog
I
would be
think
the
so.
gadget, either filling in at safety or
I think
corner.
I really think he'll play corner more. I think that there'll be plenty of times,
Assuming
but
everyone's
yeah, I
healthy.
mean, yeah, it is kind of. I do think he fits in both spots, and where again, if the coaching staff have mentioned that they're not worried about it, I think that he's the next guy to see the field. I mean, essentially, is how that's going to be. He'll be
Yeah.
the on the sub. He'll be the first sub.
Yeah, I mean,
And
that's
then I got
fair.
a
That's
question.
fair.
Will Omar Brown be a day 3 pick? I really hope so.
I can't believe
Talk
he
about
didn't
a
get
guy.
didn't get invited to the combine. Like,
I
not even
couldn't
an
believe it either.
invite? Man,
His tape was so good.
he's
He was just
underrated,
so
man.
fun to watch. He was so fun to
I'll feel
watch.
really validated if he, like, goes to the league and just dominates. Because I feel
Yeah,
like on
because
paper, he was an NFL worthy player. So
the eye test the whole time. Will
yeah,
be the best wide receiver this year. I mean, that's gotta be Banks.
he's gonna be Banks. Yeah. So the one interesting question earlier was about was about Thompson and what we expect to see from Thompson in this game. So
Hmm.
I mean, we talked about this again
I
in
think
the
he's gonna be
video
good.
a little bit.
Yeah, it was kind of the thing where the coaches said that he kinda came in unprepared, wasn't game day
Overweight.
ready.
Yeah.
I know it was kinda overweight. I mean, in the
I mean,
same sense,
again,
like, the coaches, like, they kicked off who'd they kick off last year because he was overweight, came back and still played for us. I'm spacing, but, like, that totally did happen last year,
did
and
it?
then yes, it did, and they came back fine and they played. So I think the coaches is just that's the standard of, like,
On
you gotta
paper,
show up.
Thompson's listed at 6'1", 250 as a linebacker. So that's a big boy.
His tape is so good at
And again, that's what we
Syracuse.
talked about in the video was that his sophomore tape was way better in our opinion than the senior tape because he was way lighter as a sophomore. So I hope to see we hope to see the lighter version of Stephen Thompson. That's what, at least personally, what I would hope to see. Josh Fleeks, right? Yeah, he wasn't like in football shape last spring.
Yes. Yeah. Got Fleeks.
So that would be wild. Phelan Sanford and getting some love. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can see it. It would be interesting.
Phelan's gonna make us. Phelan's gonna make a roster somewhere.
I
just
mean,
as
he'll be a special teams
unit.
god. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
dude, he's the
Which
greatest.
unfortunately for him is that the kickoffs are now basically irrelevant. So I don't know.
I know it's too bad because like he's a special teams all star. He's a team of the century for the Huskers in special team.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he's a special teams just legend. I mean,
Thoughts
I will
on
look at Phelan
Jamari
Sanford.
Butler? I see. The coaches. I don't know if we're going to see much of Butler in this game. I mean, Rule has talked about how most of these veteran guys aren't going to get like tons of work in the spring game. So I'd be surprised if we see Butler with a lot. But from the season, what are your thoughts on Butler? Can he develop? I mean, what's the next level? What's the upside take for Butler here?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, he was fine last season.
Yeah, he played
It's
359 snaps, 228 as the pass rusher, or in like passing situations, essentially 118 in rushing.
yeah. I mean, he was definitely best in the pass rush area again. I mean,
He
he had a
just
lot of sacks. Like
he's got a motor, but it just seems like most of the time it's like coverage sacks. Like rarely is he the one creating the pressure, right?
yeah, yeah. Hmm. I mean, again, he's a good person on our defensive line. I mean, do you see him? I mean, get a ton of playing time. I mean, he had a lot of sacks the 5.5. I do agree that again, he's just not quite as fast. He doesn't have that closing speed as much. But like again, a super solid player for us. It's just yeah, I mean, is he have that NFL upside? It's like when you have like Prince Will and some of these other, and then the freshmen coming in, these defensive linemen, it's just really interesting to see where he does fit into that mix of we have so much talent on the defensive line, especially with Nash and Ty and them coming back. I mean, it's really there's not a lot of room, especially where I feel like now our secondary's grown and our linebacking core is a little bit better. How much is this going to be for? How much? I mean, I think we're going to have a lot more just straight D end lined up, in the season.
Yeah, I mean that was
Uh,
something that Rule had talked about when it comes to like third downs in a presser. He was like, good defenses only are in like 10 third down, like 10 real third downs in a game because you're not giving up a lot of drives. The other team doesn't have the ball much. Your offense is juicing the clock. So in an ideal world, a good team is only has like 10 third down situations. So he's like obviously emphasizing turnovers and emphasizing getting off the field quick and like three and out. So you don't have as many third downs.
yeah.
When it comes to like a player though, like what are your thoughts on like James Williams then? last year we had him in those, like, when we would run, like, 4 down linemen and basically turn into a 4-3 for a second. We'd pull James
Yeah.
Williams out there in those passing situations, in those specific passing sets. Um,
He was really
what do you
good
think of
for
James
us.
Williams as the potential guy? Like, is that a guy to watch in the spring game here?
I mean, I agree. I mean, he came in again, just another guy that came in his redshirt year, did play some, had a sack, at Michigan State. He's got a good size. I mean, 6'5", that's something you really like to see on the defensive line. I think that he's an interesting guy to talk about. I mean, man, I'm really excited about it. The more we talk about defensive line, I'm like, man, we have a lot of
That's what
guys
I'm
that are
saying.
really good. We have a lot of depth. These guys,
Way more
Ryan
than
Nash
past
coming back.
years.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
cabinets are not
it's just
bare anymore.
no, it felt, but man, did it feel like our defensive line was just so like, I mean, I don't want to say soft, but just like, yeah, just empty. It was just
Lacking
barren.
upside, lacking burst,
Yeah.
lacking power.
And even last year, we are like, man, we could still get some more pressure. And I feel like we're really adding those guys that are really going to create problems. That's why I really like Vince Shavers, man. You watch his tape, and again, I know he's going to be playing linebacker, but man, he did some
I
great
mean,
stuff
bro,
for
I
the
don't
O
know.
line.
Again, that was at high school. It's just you never know. You
It's
never
true.
know.
It's true. It's true. I know. It's true. But yeah,
So,
I think James Williams is interesting. He's a guy that again, he's definitely going to be fighting
and
for
they were
time.
very specific with
Um,
him. They played him in 4 of the last 5 games, and only in those games, and in pass rush. And he came in and produced. I mean, I think he had 2 sacks in those games, and he only played 48 snaps, and he
was
went
so
from
good at
8
Iowa
snaps.
Western Community
And
College too.
like, think about this. James Williams, 8 snaps in week 8, 11 snaps in week 9, 13 snaps in week 10, 16 snaps in week 11.
Yeah, and you got to think, okay, that's exactly those third down situations. It was like we called him, we called his number. But yeah, I mean, I think I mean, it's going to be hard to get the playing time because we have a lot of guys who are good pass rushers. And I think he's definitely one of them. And again, if he develops again more this year, he's a little bit on the smaller side. It's really interesting to see where he can
I mean,
fit in inside of the whole scheme.
Iowa Western Community College.
Was
That's
dude, they're a beast with the Reavers. They produce a lot of talent. They win a lot of championships over there. So don't be sleeping.
yeah. I mean, in his little bio, it says he played in 11 games there. Oh, it says Iowa Central, but then Iowa Western. I'm not sure. Either Iowa Central or Iowa Western. But he had 19 tackles, 6 sacks, 7 for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. MVP of the Game 1 Bowl. Ooh, nice. So I mean, yeah, so basically he's essentially a true sophomore. It's his 3rd year of college, after transferring from community college. So I don't know. He's interesting to me as a guy that you could essentially see him break out this season and then actually like really be a real contributor in the passing game. He's listed at 6'5", 235. So if that is his true height, I mean that's real size. And he seemed to have a legit like athletic build that could work. So I am fairly excited about James Williams, to be honest, and a guy that I have circled in the spring game to hopefully produce.
I know, I think so too. And I saw a question. Yes, uh, Gavin Wright is on the team.
Yes,
um,
yeah. Javen.
yes,
So this is his last year of eligibility, as if I remember
Yep.
right.
Yeah,
So the linebacking
got
core at
like
this
an
point is
injured in
shaping up
COVID.
to be Javen, Mackay, and John Bullock as the 3 kind of core pieces. And then we got the true
Yep.
freshman. We've got Stephen Thompson as the X factor. And so it's
Yeah.
basically those guys. Stephen Thompson's the other veteran. The question is what's he going to play? Is he going to play Jack or is he going to play linebacker? And that's what we're watching for in the spring game. If he's
Yeah.
thinner,
Because again, he played both at Syracuse. But later in the career, he did play more of
he went from like middle linebacker to
middle
Jack
linebacker.
to D line. And then so his senior
Yeah.
year, he was mostly playing D line, which wasn't nearly as exciting. So yeah, Jack, obviously it's Prince Will and it's MJ Sherman. And that's kind of what we're looking for there. I think,
Yeah,
like,
Principals, I think, got that spot on lock.
I mean, yeah, ideally that's the case, right? So
Yeah.
the question is whether or not Stephen Thompson's a Jack or he ends up playing like middle linebacker, outside line, weak side
I think he could.
linebacker.
I really think he could play that middle linebacker spot again if he kind of gets in that game shape. That I think they're. I mean, it makes sense that they would talk about his weight being a factor if they wanted him to play more of that linebacker spot instead of D line. So in my mind, it makes sense that he's going to play that spot. And again, if he can get into that shape, which I think he can, I mean, he's just such a stud. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, it seems like a big
It's
addition
like if that's the case, if
all
he
things
is
fall into place.
linebacker worthy, then I feel pretty good about the linebacking core. If you have Thompson, Javen, Bullock, and Mackay, and
Yep.
then the true freshman behind him. But the thing is this is the problem: is if any of them get hurt, it's true freshmen behind them, and so you really need like
Yep.
Shavers or Willis McGahee the fourth to be legit to feel good about the linebacking core this year when it comes to getting into games 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with injuries that are inevitably going to happen.
Yeah. That's his football. Yeah, I agree. That's why, yeah, the hope that the Shavers can come along. But man, um, it is exciting.
How do you think the Pac-12
Um,
teams will do? I mean, those are all the real questions. I mean, that's what's
oh,
going to be fun to
that's a good
watch with these
question.
spring games too. Is we got to watch all of these
I think
new
Oregon. I
Pac-12
think
teams.
Oregon's gonna be fun. I think Oregon's gonna assimilate the best. They just had the best team. I think. They're just more well-rounded. They had the best defense coming in. So when you think about the Big Ten having big offensive line, defensive line, I think they have those things. Toyota, who was our D line coach, is Oregon's D line
That's
coach.
fun.
I think that they're the most poised. I think that USC is gonna have a lot of troubles. You just lose a Heisman winning QB. Their defense was in shambles last year and they couldn't win games with
Two
Caleb Williams.
and they're losing two either first or second round wide receivers, probably second round wide receivers
Yeah.
as well. So the offense is
So
going to have a lot to replace.
granted, Lincoln Riley does
You
replace
trust
guys, but
Lincoln
Caleb
Riley
Williams,
though, yeah.
yeah, to replace QBs. So I'm sure it'll be fine. But again, the defense has been a question all of Lincoln Riley's career, even at Oklahoma. That goes back to Oklahoma, let alone the Big Ten, where you can get run over in a hurry, as Nebraska has found out. And even we entered and probably did pretty. I mean, our best years were those first years entering. But you think
Interesting.
that UCLA is going to have some problems too. Coaching
Yeah.
changes and everything else. I mean, that looks tough
Well,
for
I mean, all of them.
UCLA.
You
I
know,
think Oregon's gonna be fine. Washington's
Washington's
losing a coach too.
and yeah, quarterback,
Yeah,
elite wide
we stole
receiver.
their AD. Like it's tough out there for
Yeah.
Washington. I think Oregon's gonna. I think Oregon will be fine.
The
I
Uman
think that
Milan
the
chat
other
is
three are
hilarious.
questions.
Y'all are killing me here. They're trying to challenge how you spell Uman Milan without looking it up.
There's you got to have an I in there.
Yeah, yeah. It's Uman Mi Island, I think is how it kind of goes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so overall though, I'm really pumped about this. The NFL draft starts in about 5 minutes and I haven't ate dinner yet. So I'm looking I think overall that kind of can wrap it up for the film review here, but or the spring game thoughts. Any final thoughts though? Anything else to say to the chat? We hope to do a few more live streams, and now that we have it all set up and we're
Yes.
rocking and rolling. Someone asked earlier, what country am I in? Because I mentioned that I would move. So I did move from Germany. Now I'm in Puerto Rico. So shout out
Josh is
PR,
just
baby.
everywhere.
I'm all over.
Josh
I'm
is
everywhere.
everywhere.
Yep.
He's Mr. Worldwide,
Mr.
and
Mr.
so is this
Worldwide.
channel, I guess.
Mr. Worldwide. So we're rocking
Who's
and
going
rolling.
first? Who's name the first three off the draft?
It's going to be
Fire away.
quarterbacks. It's going to be Caleb Williams. Then it's going to be Jaden Daniels. Then it's going to be Drake May. I think it's going to be bang,
That's what
bang,
you
bang.
think?
I think.
Nice. I mean,
You heard it here
you
first.
think that
Drake May will be a better quarterback than Jaden Daniels.
do you think there's any chance that Caleb Williams is not first overall pick?
No. He's guaranteed.
No.
I think he's like minus
There have been
10,000 right now in betting odds.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
Caleb. Who do you think is going to be the best quarterback of those three?
Caleb Williams. I'm confident.
Caleb Williams. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little nervous. He's got a little Johnny Manziel, tendencies.
You mean the ego?
Yes, the ego. The ego does
The
worry
ego does
me.
scare me. It's a real ego.
I mean, it's important to have an ego as a QB, but it has to be like the right amount. You have to be like really
Yeah.
confident in yourself.
Like
but,
you have the
everything else
Baker
still
and
gotta
the
be
Johnny
there.
Manziel levels, which are like through the
Yeah.
ceiling.
And Aaron Rodgers, it's like or even Russell
And Jay
like,
Cutler,
yeah.
like those guys. Yeah, but Rodgers, that worked.
Yes, but that's just because he probably just worked because he was just so talented. Just an insane. He's an outlier because his arms talent was just so ridiculously.
Yeah.
he can put a ball anywhere.
But I mean,
know.
he's set up though. DJ Moore. I mean, you're the whole, and then they Keenan Allen. So like, they signed DeAndre Swift. Like that's gonna be a heck of a setup for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Man,
I mean,
like that's like for a first pick. Normally, the first pick you walk in and it's like you walk into the Panthers last year. Like, good luck,
yeah, have
have
fun.
fun. Miles
The Browns
Sanders.
every single year.
Yeah, the Browns every
you're-
year. Exactly, the Browns
The
every year.
Browns
Instead, you
got
walk into DJ
nothing.
Moore, Keenan Allen, and DeAndre Swift. That's a way better setup for a first overall pick. So he's primed to
Yeah.
succeed.
I think that JJ McCarthy's in a fun spot. If he, I mean, they're projected him for the Vikings. It's like, man, look at all that.
that'd
What
be
he's
lit.
gonna have.
Well, anyone who lands in
I
the
mean,
Vikings is like, okay,
Yeah,
hey,
it's
that's-
like, oh, sweet.
Congrats.
I have this one wide receiver who's actually pretty okay, I guess.
is
Justin
there actually
Jefferson.
talk of Jeff Sims going to ASU? That'd be hilarious. I hope so. I want to see what Jeff Sims does. Imagine Jeff Sims dominates. That'd be great.
I mean, it would just be. I mean, it would just make so much sense that he would go somewhere and do well. It just
Yeah.
like it would perfectly just embody just the chaos, like whatever. I mean,
brain disease he had last season.
it was
I
just
mean-
it was so unexplainable. It was such a it was the
Unexplainable.
flukiest of flukes that could have ever fluked in college
Literally,
football.
I
And you
mean,
feel bad.
3
You
years
feel bad. Like
at Georgia
it
Tech,
was
where
hard
he
to
was
watch.
good. He was
Oh,
fine,
yeah,
and his
solid
last season, and he had some great moments at Georgia Tech. And then basically his only good moment was that one run against Minnesota. I mean, against
He had
Minnesota.
the one touchdown where that guy was wide open, and it was the super weird.
Oh yeah.
crazy trick play thingy.
So
like
besides that, I don't know. Harbaugh's gonna draft JJ trade Herbert. Now that would create
That
a
would-
crazy night, to say the least.
that would to trade Justin Herbert away would be the dumbest thing that the Chargers could ever do in franchise history. I mean, that would be worse than Urban Meyer's whole existence on the Jaguars. I think. I think that would
Yeah,
even
we'll
be
see.
worse.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know how you could be worse than what Urban Meyer did, but that would probably do it.
Yeah, I can't imagine. How many wide receivers go in the draft? Right now, the over under 6.5 in the
I'm
first
gonna
round.
take 7. Give me the over. Give me the over, baby.
Moon boy. There's 4.5 quarterbacks over under. That's the odds right now.
Dude, I can't.
Penix was
Somebody really
projected
gonna
to
take
go.
Penix?
That's
Are
what
they
I'm saying.
really gonna take Penix? I mean, that just blows my mind.
I would
don't-
never. I would never. The
it
dude's like
makes
90.
sense
He's like
for
in a
the
retirement
Raiders.
home, bro.
I know it makes sense for the Raiders, but I couldn't believe that the Raiders would actually. No, I'm gonna go 4. I don't think it's gonna be 5.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
5 would
I'll
really
take the
shock
under.
me. But they're gonna be like, no, it's like Patrick Mahomes. It's like, no, it's not like Patrick Mahomes. No, what are you doing? No, please stop. The first round
Yeah.
pick is gone.
Well, man, that's the thing.
That's
Like the problem is Penix. Like the odds of a quarterback that old hitting, it's never happened. It's never happened once.
oh,
it's
I
like-
mean, it's giving me Brandon Whedon is what it's giving me. That's
Yeah,
what
like Whedon
it's
was
like,
older, to be
he's
fair, but
28.
yeah, it's just so unlikely. It's so unlikely.
I
'Cause
just
again,
don't
like,
see- I think
Generally, the odds
looks
are is
so
that if a
good at
guy's that good,
times.
they came out of college earlier because they were that good.
he did get injured. He was at Indiana. I mean,
Indiana,
there
but-
is some.
He could have come out
He
after
looked
that
so
season.
good
though.
at Indiana. He should have, and he looked good.
So I don't know.
I don't
That's
know.
the thing. I would never take him.
Maybe
JJ McCarthy.
Maybe he could be good.
Okay, so let's out of the 4 quarterbacks, let's throw JJ McCarthy in there. Order the 4 quarterbacks NFL careers right now on the minute the draft's about to start.
Ooh.
Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, and if you want to throw in Bo Nix or Michael Penix, you can.
I'm gonna go.
Best
Daniels,
careers.
McCarthy, Daniels, McCarthy,
Wow. Daniels McCarthy.
Caleb Williams, Drake May.
Daniels
Bo
won?
Nix.
How big of a career
Yeah.
then? Is this
I mean, I
how
think
how
it'd
good's
be
he
really
gonna
good.
be? Like
I
Lamar
think Jaden
Jackson.
Daniels gonna be. Yeah, I mean that'd be pretty crazy, but yeah, I'll go with. I'm not gonna say Lamar Jackson, but I think I don't know. I just this quarterback like it really does scare me this draft. I don't feel great about any of them to be honest.
Really?
No,
I mean,
I just like I've
On pure
out of my
technicals,
takes on
I
him.
feel like Caleb Williams is a lock. The guy's a god. He's so good.
I know he looks good.
Does it
But
worry you that
yeah, like-
that USC didn't win a lot of games last year?
Yes,
Their
that's
offense was
part of
good,
it
though.
for sure. Their offense was really good. I mean, part of it's the defense. I mean, part of me is like, how good is Lincoln? I mean, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I gotta say,
I'm gonna
JJ McCarthy to me, we were talking
Yeah,
about this before,
McCarthy.
but like people,
I'm gonna go
Mac
Daniels
Jones
McCarthy.
is like a comp just because he's like the random other quarterback that people are throwing in. But to me, I just always thought JJ McCarthy is just an absolute beast. I
He's looked good
genuinely
this whole
think
time.
JJ McCarthy could be the best quarterback in this draft. I think Drake May is legit, though. I will say, in my opinion, I would go Caleb Williams, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, and I would lean that Jaden Daniels is a bust closer to Justin Fields, where he'll be a great fantasy football quarterback for like 3 years and then like kind of fade away.
I think he'll be good, but man, I think it's fun. This would be a great clip to come back to, and whatever happens, I'm glad that we've documented it on the universe.
Yes.
Whatever,
So,
and whatever that
any final
happens.
questions here? Favorite teams? Patriots. I've always been a Patriots fan since I was a kid. Hopped on that one in 2001. That was a good choice as a 5-year-old. Caleb, you don't really have a favorite team.
Obviously,
You've leaned the
the
Bengals
Huskers,
over the last like 5 years. You've been
that's
Bengals
true.
since Joe Burrow got drafted.
The Bengals have a lot of Huskers.
Zach Taylor.
Obviously, the Zach Taylor effect is real.
Niners. You like
And,
Niners?
I mean, sure, yeah. I think that they're a lot of fun. I like good defenses. So whichever teams usually got a great defense is always what I like to watch. I just don't like the Cowboys really, I guess.
Fair.
There's not really. There's no team I like. I like just watching my fantasy football team. I'm loyal to my fantasy.
I mean, that's the
team.
thing. Same. Like,
I love Jamar Chase, I guess. If it was pro sports in general, the only one I really love is the Warriors because I'm a giant Steph Curry fan. But
yeah.
besides that, like pro
That's the thing.
sports,
We're all
I mean,
from
I just love
Nebraska,
watching
so
NFL.
we have the excuse to hop on bandwagons when we're like 5 years old. So
I think that's the best way. I mean, that's been the most cathartic thing to do anyway because Nebraska football has been so bad. It just makes the most sense to follow something else that's
Yeah.
good because
or like someone who
Nebraska
hops on like the
football's been such a
Bears or
disappointment.
the Broncos. Well, the Broncos at least won a Super Bowl, but like the Bears,
Yeah.
or like the Lions, something like that. It's like that's just pure
You just
depression.
feel so bad, and I almost did with Ndamukong Suh, but then
Yeah, a lot of Husker fans did with Sue.
But it's like then my brain overcame, even though I love Calvin Johnson. Oh my goodness, watch his Megatron highlights all day. But yeah, it's just I love fantasy football just in general. And I mean, the NFL is just so fun because they're all so good. I don't have a favorite team.
All right, guys. Well, we got to wrap it up here. We appreciate you guys for hanging out. This was fun. And now that we have it set up, hopefully we can do some more of these in the future. Maybe some random summer ones, have some guests on, just chill and vibe. And we'll see what happens. So thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Y'all are the best. Join the Discord, join the Patreon. They're all links are in the description. And hanging out with us. I'll be doing reaction during the spring game as well. And we'll be having fun. So watch out for a video coming out after the spring game. We'll be there. Thanks for watching. Talk to y'all very soon. Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.